สวัสดีค่ะ Welcome to Hot Thai Kitchen. Today I am showing you one of my absolute favorite desserts. But up until recently, I always thought it was a very difficult thing to make. And I think because back when I was a kid, we tried to make it at home and I remember it turning out just completely disastrously. So I think in my mind, I've always thought that this is not something you make at home. And it's not something a lot of people make at home, but I just recently tried it again and it is totally doable. And so I thought, it's a lot easier than I thought, so I'm going to share it with you. It is called บัวลอยน้ำขิง บัวลอย means floating lotus, and it's our term for dumplings type dessert, and น้ำขิง is ginger tea. So there are these black sesame filled sticky chewy dumplings that is served in a sweet ginger tea. It is so comforting and delicious, and it's something you can make in advance that you can pull out and put together whenever you're ready to eat. Let's get started. So we're going to start with the filling. So I've got some black sesame seeds here. Now you want these to be roasted. All you have to do is just stir them around in a dry pan over medium-low heat, and you might wonder, well, how can you tell when these are roasted? Because they're black, right? So what I do is I throw in some white sesame seeds, just a little bit, and then I watch the color of the white sesame seeds. So as soon as they turn golden, then you pull the whole thing off. If you don't have white sesame seeds, there are a couple of things you can watch for. I will talk about them in the written recipe on the website, okay? So now I'm going to grind these in my coffee grinder. Now, I tried using a food processor for this and it just doesn't get them quite as fine. You want this to be quite fine, otherwise they won't stick together very well if you've got a lot of coarseness in there. So you could mortar and pestle it too, but that takes a long time. And you don't want to overdo it because you don't want to turn this into tahini. Like eventually it'll just liquefy in its own oil. But what you're looking for is for it to start to get moist. Like if you notice at the bottom of your coffee grinder, it's already starting to stick. That's what you're going for. And that's it. It takes literally like 5 seconds. All right, so the filling is super easy. I'm gonna start out with some coconut oil. You can also do butter. A lot of vendors in Thailand do shortening, which is not healthy for you, so you shouldn't use it, but either butter or coconut oil. And the fat is actually really important. It's gonna allow the filling to be solid when you form it into balls, but then when you eat it and it's warm, it's like melty and soft. So you definitely wanna use fat that is solid at room temperature, okay? Some palm sugar. You can totally use white sugar for this, but hey, why not add a little extra flavor, right? A little bit of salt. The salt is so important. Do not forget it or it's not gonna taste as good. And then I'm gonna cook this just over low heat until the sugar is melted. So now that your sugar is melted, it's not gonna mix with the oil, that's totally fine. I'm gonna add my sesame seeds. And the sesame seeds are going to absorb all that liquid. I'm actually gonna turn off the heat now. And there you go. So what you're looking for is for it to be like a paste that you can form into balls, because eventually that's what we're going to do. So it needs to stick together well, but not too runny. If it is too runny, just grind a little more sesame seeds and add to it to help absorb that fat. Now we're going to let that cool before we can do anything with it. So while our filling is cooling, let's make the ginger tea. So I've got some ginger here, a lot, because I like the spicy. You can totally do less. This will be pretty spicy. And I've just pounded it in my mortar and pestle to really get the juices released. And I'm just gonna dump it in my boiling water. Without splashing yourself with hot water. So this will take about 20 minutes. Oh, I got sesame seeds in there somehow. You didn't see that? Yes, and so this will just simmer for 20 minutes and it's as simple as that. So while the tea is steeping and the filling is chilling, we're gonna make the dough, which could not be simpler. 2 ingredients, glutinous rice flour and water. That's it. But the choice of flour is so important, you cannot get this wrong. Glutinous rice flour comes in a green bag like this. There's regular rice flour that comes in a red bag and it will not work whatsoever. You need this flour, okay? So with this, you want to add water, and the amount of water is not super exact, so there needs to be some judgment involved. So I always like to start with a little, and it'll be too little, and then you keep adding. And little by little is important because this is the kind of dough where once you get close, too big of a splash and that's it. It's gone too runny very quickly. And the exact amount of water you need will sort of depend on the humidity of the flour. If it's old, it'll be drier. Oh, I might have just done too much, guys. This is what I'm telling you. One too big of a splash. So what I'm going to do, just to be safe, I'm going to pour out this extra water. And hopefully I don't have to add any flour. And if you do get it too wet, just add a little more flour. But it's just, you know, now you've got too much dough. So what you're looking for is for the dough to, it should not be sticking to the bottom of the bowl anymore. It shouldn't really stick too much to your hands either. But at this point, if you feel like, okay, it's a little stiff, I want to add just a touch more water, this is what you do. You literally like touch water with your hand and then you do this. Like it does not take a lot at all. And then you just keep doing that until you feel like, okay, this is really nice and soft. And I think we're good. So the filling is cool enough. We're going to form the fillings into balls first. And each ball, I recommend, should be about 9 grams. If you get 8, fine. If you get 10, fine. But any bigger, any smaller than that will ruin your dough to filling ratio, which is one of the key features of this dessert. And so you just grab a little, compress it into a ball. It doesn't need to be completely round at this point. Something like that. You weigh it and see how good you are. Oh my God, that's 9 grams. No, it's not. It's 10. Close enough. So I take a little bit off and then I put on this plate. And once you've got these little cute balls, just put them in the freezer so that they will firm up, which will make it a lot easier for you to wrap. Off I go. So the tea is done simmering. Your house should smell so good right now. And you can just strain it, or I'm just gonna use my mesh skimmer and fish everything out. Now I'm gonna sweeten this with dark brown sugar. So dark brown sugar is traditional for this, and you can make it as sweet or as not sweet as you like. All right, so the balls are nice and frozen. Our ginger tea is ready. Only one more thing left to do is to wrap the dumplings. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to oil my hands, and this is just the coconut oil, but it can be whatever oil. Now the dough should probably also be weighed, because I take back probably, should be weighed, because the worst thing you want to have is a dumpling with dough that is too thick. Then you know it's really doughy and it's too much dough and it's bland because the flavor is not in the dough. So for a 9-gram ball, I would do 12 to 13 grams of dough. 8, I'm not very good at this at all. There we go, 12. So first I roll it into a ball, and then I press it down until it's about this big. My biggest fear is touching these sesame balls and then touching the dough, and then you get black stuff all over the dough. So I'm going to pick up the sesame balls with tongs, and then my thumb, press it down, and then as you see, I'm going to sort of slowly coax the dough around the ball. Once I get here, I let go, and I do not use this thumb, which has black sesame on it, to touch this ever again. You probably accidentally do that a couple times, but to keep things nice and clean, this thumb touches nothing except the top of that ball. And so you want to make sure it's all nice and sealed, and then it looks ridiculous now, but you just roll it into a ball, and there you have it. A nice and round dumpling. So you can make these balls in advance, by the way, keep in the fridge or even the freezer, and then whenever you're ready, you pick it up from here. This is the beauty of these things. So that's why you can buy these things from the frozen section at the Asian grocery store. So you can apply the same concept. All you have to do is boil these in water for about 5 minutes. If they've been sitting, they might get a flat edge. Doesn't really matter, but if you care, just give them another roll. Be gentle now because the filling will have softened by this point. At first they will sink. Eventually they will float. A lot of people say once they float, they're done. Once they float, it means the dough is cooked, but I find they do need another 1 to 2 minutes to make sure the inside is hot. Also, have a bowl of room temperature water ready. If you have a couple of batches to boil, leave the first batch in water and then they won't stick together. Super simple to put it together. You want to take a couple balls and then pour your hot ginger tea over. Oh, yes. Oh, they're so cute. A cute bowl is a must-have. So is a spoon shaped like this. I don't know, I call this a Thai spoon. I don't know what's the word for it. So now you might be wondering, now how do I eat this? So I'm going to tell you, there is a way to eat it. This is a 2-biter, not a 1-biter, and be very careful. The inside can be incredibly hot, so make relatively certain that it has cooled down enough that you won't burn your mouth, okay? So you basically just bite off half of the ball. And this is what you got inside. Note the thickness of that dough. That is exactly what you want. No thicker, because any more than this, it'll be super doughy. The filling is holding together enough so it's not spewing all over the place. Some people like to make it so that if you bite into it, it'll just like, the filling is so soft that it comes out. I don't like that because then it contaminates my soup. My filling is all escaped. So this is just the perfect consistency. You make sure there's soup in your spoon, you eat the other half. So comforting. That ginger, the heat from the ginger, and the sweetness and nuttiness from the sesame, there is no better food pairing. The dough is super soft, so think mochi. That is the consistency that we've got, soft and chewy, and if you've had this, you know how good it is. If you're going to make this, the recipe is on hotthaikitchen.com, and please check out that post before you make it. I'm going to include a lot of little tips here and there that will help make this process easier that I couldn't cover today, so please don't make it before you read the recipe, okay? And if you haven't subscribed to the show, make sure you do so you never miss an awesome recipe like this. And if you want to join our Patreon club, check out all the information in the description box below, and I will see you next time for your next delicious Thai meal. Sesame in my teeth.
You do not. Oh, you're kidding. Do you now? Yes, you do.
You always get sesame in your teeth after, so...
It's authentic.